Hey everybody, welcome back to Kil2 YouTube here. I got some fights I'm going to share as usual. And before we start, a couple little business things. I've been getting some donations. You guys are amazing. I'm actually going to get to show fights in this video with a ship that was donated that I never would have otherwise flown. So I hope that's fun for some of you. I'm sure it's fun for the guy who sent me the ship, but that's unusual, and it's been amazing to get so much help lately. Second, I figured out why the quality on my YouTube videos is garbage. My Eve resolution is actually too high, and none of my video editing software can render out at the res that my Fraps is at. So I fixed that. From now on, this video will still be bad. After this, hopefully, it's a little sharper looking because it doesn't have to condense the resolution. Anyway, on to PvP. I'm going to be in a Daredevil, and I'm going to put the fit up for you now. I'm going to talk about it before I start since it's really unusual. This guy gave me this Daredevil. I started asking around about Daredevil fits, and everybody said fit rails, use the really strong 90% web bonus to keep range, kill things with rails. It's really good. And I thought, that sounds good, but rails are boring. I want to use blasters, and so I started poking around for a good blaster fit. And what I happened to find was a Hera Darkthorn fit, who's a Genos pilot that's like got more kills in Eve than anyone else. Someone I usually look to for fits. Hera had lost a Daredevil that didn't have a point on it. You're looking at it now, I guess. It only had a web. It had its web, medium, shield extender, micro warp in the mids. And the idea is, I assume that you don't need a scram because in frig fights nobody tries to warp out anyway. So the idea is to 1v1 frigs and basically kill them before they realize they can warp. And the web is better at accomplishing that than the scram would be because you can actually kill afterburner stuff and pretty much anything. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start the footage. It's a really fun ship. Here we go. So the first fight is the simplest. It's just the Tyrannus. I was at like a safe. He warped. He had apparently a warp near my safe, or maybe I was at a can. I don't remember. Anyway, he warps out to 30. And from this point, this is what's different about Frig PvP. He's committed right now. Like he's totally intent on trying to kill me, and his whole mindset is already I'm either going to win or lose. But here I go. And so he's never going to think to warp. So the Daredevil is really just a way better Tyrannus. I mean, all I have to do is hit approach and overheat my top rack. And even though it looks like he does have an afterburner, he's going 500, but it doesn't matter. He goes down. So we'll really quickly switch to the second fight, which is more complicated. Here, what you're seeing, I sped it up so we didn't have to watch all this, but I know you guys like to see how the fights sort of precipitate. So what happens is I jump into MO. There's a whole bunch of people on the gate, and I sort of warped off quick because I'm used to doing that, even though in the frig I really didn't need to. I could have sat there and seen what was up since they were all 400k off the gate. But I warp away, and then while I'm warped away, I don't know how well you'll be able to read local, but they start smacking a little bit in local, and at first I thought they were smacking me, but it turns out they were in some kind of engagement, and pretty much any time in Eve that other people are fighting, you want to be there. That's a great time to get weird kills and I don't know, do way more than you normally would be able to. So they're yelling at each other, so I immediately warp back to gate to see if I can single out something. And when I get there, everything's gone. The local cleared out, they all jumped out. I don't know what the deal was. I still don't really know what was going on, but the one thing on grid is this Thrasher, and he's at a wreck that's 800k away from me, so I just warped directly to the wreck. And at this point, I don't know if the Daredevil can handle a Thrasher or not. I mean, Thrasher should be able to kill pretty much any frigate pretty effectively, but, might as well try. And at the same time I warp to the wreck, he warps up to a bubble, but that's fine. I just chill at the wreck, and I assume he'll come back. Because I'm an ideal target for him, right? So, the one thing that's different about a Thrasher from a Tyrannus is with the Thrasher, I think it's better for me to orbit at 500. I don't want my micro warp on. In this case, I really don't want it on because this Talos shows up. So I'm orbit 500 with no micro warp on the Thrasher. The idea is he could be already fit, and maybe I would benefit from tracking a little bit by orbiting him. And also in this case, I really don't want to be sitting still because the Talos would kill me instantly. And also, I don't want my micro warp on because I want my SIG as low as possible. So that works out well. And the Talos is actually hitting me, but I do warp out before he kills me. So that was pretty awesome. I was really excited about that one. From there, you can see I warp. I was ready to warp right away. I had to get off the field super fast because the Talos would have finished me off. But I'm all safe and sound, warping off grid here. And so we'll go to the next one. And again, no scram there. Thrasher, just died before he realized he could leave, which I think is really typical. I think this would work almost always on any fight that wasn't going to be prolonged, as long as it's too intense for them to take the time. Okay, so here, this one's going to be even longer, building the fight. So I start on this station This is 4 times speed, so it's really fast. But there was a curse and a wolf on the station. I had hoped to fight the wolf, but the curse showed up and neutered me, so I had to warp off before I got tackled. And then I warped back to the station. Now there's Drake, Curse, Saber. They undock a Nidhogger, which is a carrier. So that's a little much for my Daredevil. So I head back to the outgate, hoping something will follow me. And at this point, because of the carrier being there, I really don't want to fight in this system. But since they're so active, I feel pretty confident that I can jump to the other system and something will come look for me. There was like Rifter, Saber, Wolf all in here, which would all be good fights for me. So I jump to the other side, and I'm going to immediately burn off the gate a little bit because I both want to be far from the gate so that if something comes through, well, I want to drag something off the gate. I don't want to be where other things can jump in and help out. And what comes through is the Saber. He immediately bubbles. I don't know why interdictors always do that. Like, you're not going to bubble a Daredevil. You don't need to drop a bubble. All it does is trap you in case you want to leave for some reason. But I do burn off. And at first he burns for me, but then he slows down. I really want him to come out away from the gate so that if, especially something like a Drake or that curse comes through, there's enough of a window where I can hopefully leave before they're able to help out. And the other funny thing is, I don't know if I can fight a Saber. I'm a little worried about that, but, you know, might as well try. And he decides to go for it. So now we're brawling. And I'd messed this up. I actually slingshotted past him twice. And that's really bad for me because of his long fall off with autocannons, he's doing better when we're like 5k apart from each other. And I really can't afford that. But eventually I'm able to get close and establish the no micro warp 500-meter orbit. And again, despite the no scram, he's totally committed, and reasonably so since he almost kills me. Turns out he had 2 medium shield extenders, and Daredevil doesn't care about that. And there he goes. So another sick kill. At this point, I'm super... This is in chronological order, by the way, so these are like all the fights I had in this ship. And super impressed. I couldn't believe that I was able to kill that Saber in just a straight brawl. At this point, the wolf comes through the gate, and I gotta get out of there. I wish I'd had more HP so I could have tried to fight that too. I don't know whether my expectation is going to be better against the wolf than the Saber. I'm not sure which one is scarier, but it probably depends on fit. Anyway, get off that grid, no problem. Go to the next fight. The next fight's the kind of the most straightforward one. It's just a Thrasher sitting on a gate in a pretty empty system. And it was kind of awkward. I was hoping to convince him. I always want people, like, I wanted to sit off the gate at range and have him come to me. That kind of says to me that he's committed and that he wants to fight. If I burn in and get the first shot, a lot of time the first shot is enough to warrant him jumping out. But I burn for him and then he takes the first shot. So we're good to go. And again, orbit 500 in case he's got artillery instead of autocannons. I don't know if he would have a hard time tracking with me orbiting 500, but I think he would. So I think it's worth doing rather than approaching. And I don't think I should have any trouble tracking at all. So he has autocannons, so that's totally irrelevant. But it seems like the Daredevil has a pretty easy time with Thrashers. So he didn't even get me into armor. So that's one more kill with no scram. And the final one was the most exciting, even though I guess so far 2 have been in half structure, which is pretty exciting. This is a Dramiel that was kind of not wanting to fight me. He kept avoiding me, and eventually I just started kind of burning for him pathetically, which is not really a place you want to be. It makes it look too much like I'm excited to fight rather than, like, warping to a rack. It's kind of unclear, but eventually he turns around and gives me the fight, which is great. But then some things go wrong. I get my tackle with my web, but then he's got a tracking disruptor, which I'm not sure how much of a difference that's going to make, but I don't like it. And then a rapier decloaks, and also there's this rupture on grid. So at the moment, the rupture is in the process of warping to the Dramiel, and the rapier is in the process of locking me after decloaking, and that takes a little while for him, but once he does, it's bad news for me, because I'm going to be webbed, which I'm now webbed by the rapier, and the rapier's at 26k. Dramiel goes down, and I'm able to warp. Even though the rapier is burning for me, he does not get a point in time. So out I go. Right as the rupture lands as well. So that was super fun. I don't know if that's super educational, but I guess maybe it shows that there's some out-of-the-box possibility, or outside the box, right? Yeah, it's a box. You can get outside the box and do things like not fit a scram on your ship. and you can also have a lot of fun PvPing in Frigs, which I wasn't really aware of. I do think most of Frig PvP, the excitement comes from like turning all your mods on and seeing if your ship dies first or their ship dies first, and also from designing the engagement. But it's less about difficult decisions during the middle of the fight. Once the fight's rolling, it's pretty much the ship flies itself. It's more about when are you going to fight and when are you not. And that's actually when I ended up losing the ship, is deciding to attack a Talos, even though I don't have a point. And then the Talos had a rapier, and the rapier webbed me, and I died. So I feel like most of Frag PvP is kind of about the decisions you make leading up to a fight, and less about what you're doing when you're actually in it. And also about fitting. There's a lot of fitting decisions to be made, but super fun. It's really crazy, kind of waiting to see if your 100 mil Frag dies when it's fighting a Saber. Anyway, yeah, quality better on the next vid. Thanks again for all the support. You guys are great. And I will see you next time.